Good, how are you?
Life sentence for Sarah Boone.
Very dissatisfied, very unhappy about that result based on the testimony that came out from the two experts as well as Sarah's testimony about the abuse that she suffered. Obviously, I don't believe she was lying about that. I think we had a history of it with photographs, with arrests that were made. We had two experts, not only the defense expert, but also the state's expert saying that she suffered from intimate partner violence. I think that is at least a minimum, a mitigator in something like this. I understand the jury's decision. We respect the jury's decision. But the testimony, the photographs, the evidence was clear that she was abused. And no, I'm not happy with the life sentence.
Sarah Boone didn't have much of a reaction as far as what we could see inside the courtroom after learning she had a life sentence. How did you talk to her after? How is she feeling?
Well, she did say something to me to the effect that, "Can you believe it? I got life." And I said, no. So, I think she was poker-faced. I think maybe that's what you're referring to, but I think she was not expecting life. Neither was I.
Mr. Owens, Jules with Top Mark Media. Can you tell me, did you prepare her for what might happen today? Was she prepared for this?
Yes, she was. We talked about the minimums. We talked about the maximums. She was aware. Court had told her what the minimums and maximum were before trial, so she knew what they were. She understood the judge had the power to downward depart and give lesser than the low end of the guidelines. He did not do that. So that was his decision. He's the judge. He's the trial judge. He ultimately had to make the call. The jury made their call. It was the judge's time to pass sentence, and that's what he gave. I respect Judge Kraynick. I like him a lot. I disagree with that sentence.
Can you talk about the next steps for Sarah?
Well, she's got 30 days to file an appeal. Usually, these appeals are handled by the public defender's office, who has maybe 3 or 4 lawyers within the office, and that's all they do is appeals. But in this case, Judge Kraynick has said, I've already found that there's a conflict with the public defender's office. I've already found that there's a conflict with the alternative public defender's office called Regional Conflict Counsel. So there must be a list of appellate lawyers that do appellate criminal work in the private bar. And the clerk will pick whoever's next on the list will be her lawyer.
And again, you won't be representing her any longer.
No, never say never. If the case gets reversed on appeal and she's entitled to another trial, I'm not going to say I'll never represent her a second time, but I'm definitely not doing the appeal. And we'll see. I do believe there are 3 or 4 good appellate issues. We'll see what the appellate courts say. That usually takes, I think, about 1.5 to 2 years for them to come back. So she'll be with the Department of Corrections, wherever they send her, for the next couple of years.
And I apologize for this, but my camera glitched as we were starting. Your reaction to the verdict?
Well, disappointed with that. I thought because she did suffer from battered spouse syndrome, and that was elicited from the state's expert as well as the defense expert, as well as the testimony from Sarah Boone, as well as the photographs and the evidence, the arrest of Mr. Torres prior, that she was the victim of battered spouse. I thought the court should consider that. It was within his discretion to give her life. I just strongly disagree with that result.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you
Owens.
very much, Mr. Owens.
If you believe that Sarah was more apologetic in her statements today, the judge may have given her a lighter sentence.
No.
Sarah seemed very upbeat when she walked in. Was that truly how she felt, or was that like a stiff upper lip kind of thing?
Sarah, you can imagine somebody being in jail for 4.5 years. Their self-esteem, they're at the bottom. Okay. And she's a fighter, as we all know. When she's backed into a corner, it's just her personality that comes out. She doesn't give up. She doesn't just say whatever. And it was her chance to say what she really believed based on her experience. And like I said, nobody knows what goes on behind closed doors. We saw videotapes of her berating Mr. Torres, and it appeared, the state argued in the case in chief that it was a mutual abusive relationship. We can only go with what we know and what's presented as evidence. Nobody knows the details and the extent of what went on. We heard Sarah try to explain it. I believe she was trying to explain it. Did she harm herself maybe by some of the things she said as it relates to Mr. Torres or his family? Maybe.
I was just going to ask you about that. Did you have an opportunity to go over Sarah's statement that she was going to make in court today, or she did this completely on her own?
Well, she had written that statement several days ago, but I was not able to get back down here. The holidays and some other things that went on until last night, so I had a chance to talk to her about that statement earlier, right before court. I'm torn between being a lawyer and being a human being. I mean, she's facing life in prison. It's your chance to speak. I don't like to take away everything, but I did have her delete a bunch.
She did say it was edited.
It was.
Okay.
At my suggestion, but to some degree, she truly believes that she's a victim. And, to this country, I'm sure there have been other victims of domestic violence that have been battered women that have gone to prison. There have been a few cases where they've been acquitted based on the testimony, but it's a case-by-case basis. It is a difficult syndrome to explain. It's a difficult syndrome to understand because most women leave. The first time some guy pushes, strikes, hits, whatever the case may be, they won't stand for it. But there is a small percentage of women that put up with the abuse.
What's next for you now, Mr. Owens?
I'm going home.
So am I.
Yes, driving home.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Scott, is there any last questions you have? Do you have any questions for him? Okay.
Well, that's Sarah Boone. I think this was a horrible accident that happened. I don't think she intended to kill him, but the state didn't have to prove that she intended to kill him. I do think she loved him, but it was a highly toxic, dysfunctional love affair that they should have never been together because of just the way he was and the way she was and how it ultimately ended up. Obviously, if you could go back in time, you'd want to change things. I think, they probably tried to break up 2 or 3 times. I think he moved in with his parents, then he would come back over. So it was one of those relationships. We've all seen him. We've had family or friends, maybe not this dysfunctional, but relationships where it's not working out, but they can't seem to let go.
The statement she made in court with his family in there, knowing that he was no longer alive, the family there, her to say that she forgave them for not stopping the abuse. Is that something that you advised her on in that statement?
Well, that's something that she came up with and she wanted to say. And again, she's facing life in prison. I believe she was a victim of domestic violence based on everything that I've looked at in this case. So I know that she was a victim. Now, whether she was justified in somehow this happening, of course not. But
didn't that strike you as you've been an attorney? Did that not strike you as odd or not a good situation to be blaming the victim, the dead victim's family for? I
don't know that she was blaming. I think she was saying she forgave him. She felt like they should have intervened. I know that sometimes you'll have interventions where family members will intervene in a situation where it's so toxic or it's potentially violent. The history of the person. I don't know. That's what she wanted to say. I believe she believed in her heart of hearts that she was a victim and maybe they should have done something sooner. Maybe it is to some degree just Sarah Boone not wanting to accept the responsibility that she knew all along that she should have gotten out of the relationship. She just didn't have the courage to get out of it. So she's wanting to say to other people, maybe y'all should have stepped in and helped me some more because I was too weak or not strong enough to, not independent enough to let go.
What did she say after she was given the life sentence?
I think she was, she didn't say much other than, can you believe he gave me life? Or can you believe I got life? And I said, that's all she said. And then we started talking about the appeal. And we started talking that she wants to talk to me tomorrow. I think I'm going to Zoom in or something at the jail and speak to her tomorrow about everything. So, yeah, up there after that, you can't really talk to the client that much. And the only thing you can do is go down to the very bottom and talk to her. So I just told her I'd talk to her tomorrow. So we were talking about that. And then she had to fill out a form, an indigency form for appeal. She wants me to file an appeal, and I'll do that within 30 days. And then the court will appoint an appellate lawyer.
Does she have grounds for an appeal?
I believe she's got 4 or 5 issues. I'm not an appellate lawyer. I'm not a great, legal scholar, legal mind, but I know that I had a case years ago that I felt like there was some mistakes, and I know that I made sure we filed the appeal, and it was reversed on appeal. So I know it happens, and it was just my gut instinct that there were some things that were done. The appellate courts have a lot of power. They can find just one thing as being so egregious that it affects the entire trial and she didn't get a fair trial, or they can maybe find 4 or 5 things and they say the cumulative effect maybe.
Didn't the judge say, though, that there was no mistrial?
Well, yeah, and that's his opinion. But all the cases that have been reversed on appeal and had to go on back and try it, the trial judges did the best they could and felt like there was no mistakes made.
So she's going to try and get another trial?
Well, yeah, if when you file an appeal and you claim that there was errors made either by the judge or by the prosecutor or whatever the case may be, and the appellate court agrees and says we're going to send this back to the trial court, we're going to set aside the verdict, and it'll have to be tried again or resolved some way. At that point, it's back to square one for negotiations with the state attorney. But of course, that's her hope that she wins an appeal. Nobody wants to do life in prison.
Who will pay for all of this?
The state of Florida. The state.
Taxpayer?
The taxpayer, ultimately. As in any
So
case.
taxpayers have to pay for it?
Yeah, I didn't charge anything to represent her, and all the costs and expenses that I'm not asking for reimbursement. So I agreed to take the case. Ms. Boone understood that, the court understood that I wasn't going to be asking for any attorney's fees or any cost.
Why did you take the case?
Well, that's a long story. I've explained that before, but it was, if you remember, she went through about 7 or 8 lawyers, and finally the judge had deemed that she had forfeited her right to a trial or right to representation. And so I think after that, of course, I'm a YouTube fan, so I was watching it on YouTube, and I saw a couple of hearings after that where she was representing herself, and I can remember her saying something like, "Judge, this is not fair, I can't do this." So at that point, the court had ruled she'd forfeited her right to a lawyer. She couldn't represent herself. I didn't think somebody could get a fair trial for murder without a lawyer, so I came up here and talked to her and agreed to take the case.
And now she'll get another.
She'll get another appellate lawyer. She'll have an appellate lawyer that will, of course, everything will be typed up. Everything that was said, that's why it's so important to record everything. Everything will be typed up. And there will be a transcript, and that appellate lawyer will have to go through everything from the very beginning of the
But
case.
are you done at this point?
I'm done, other than I've got to file the notice of appeal.
And then,
So I've got to do that. So I'm out of the case at this point.
thank you so much.
All right.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.